Hi everyone, this is Terry. Today I'm going to show you how you can create designs using the shapes in my design center, and you can set those shapes inside of a background fill. So there are several techniques on this video. Stay tuned. We'll close this design and we'll exit by just going to Home, and we'll choose OK to cancel, and we'll go into my design center. So the first thing, let me tell you about my settings. On my settings page, I have a 9.5 by 9.5 frame. I do have the grid on right now so that you can see placement. We'll turn that off as we move through the design. The next thing right now, I have the unit of measurement is inches, and that again is in the settings. We'll choose OK, and we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to do is to go into the shapes, and we'll go to the second shape tab, which is also a closed shape. The first one gives you shapes that are outlines, fills, and then outlines and fills. The second icon will give you just closed shapes. We'll choose the rabbit head and choose OK. Now what I did is I resized this because I want to have a border around the perimeter of the rabbit I create. So I'll go to size and I'll reduce this proportionally. Now you can do this whatever size you want, but one of the things to be mindful of is if you have a 9.5 by 9.5 hoop, you do not have 9.5 inches of embroiderable area. If you own another machine where you, for instance, like a dream machine, where you have the templates, you can see what is the embroiderable area, but you can also tell it by taking just a square and going into embroidery and enlarging it and seeing how large you can actually create that square. So that's one way to play around and figure out what your real measurements are in the hoop. Okay, right now I have this about 4 inches. I do want to make it a little bit smaller. It may not be the same as the other one, but it'll be close enough. So we'll take it down to about 3.75. And that's where we'll leave it. That gives us a good 1.5 inches at the top, and we want about the same distance at the bottom. Now the next thing we'll do, we'll choose OK, and we'll go back to the shapes, and we'll choose this egg shape and choose OK. Now let's resize that by going to size, and we'll resize it. Let's move it down. And his body is not wide enough, I don't think, for the head. So let's make it a little bit larger. And we'll make it roughly about the same size as the other shape. So it's about 3.75. And it's centered. You can tell that by looking at the grid. So we'll leave that as it is. Now the next thing that we'll do is we'll go and add another shape. So we'll go to the circle shape, select it, and we'll resize it. And we'll resize it proportionally. This is going to be the tail. Now, I'm not really going for exact measurements. I'm just looking to see if I like it. If you were making several of these and you wanted to replicate it, it would be a good time to have a notebook and set it down beside you just to make sure you have it the size you want. Okay. I may make it just a little bit smaller. That's good. Okay, now that I have that, I'll choose OK. Let's duplicate that because I need a circle for the eye, and I'm moving that out of the way. When I'm designing, I move things up high or low. That way, if I need to select it and resize it, it's not in the way of another object. So what I'll do is I'll go on and go to size, and let's reduce this. And we'll make it about 0.35 or 0.34, that's fine, and we'll choose OK. Let's duplicate it because we need 2 eyes. Now we'll take one, and I'm just eyeballing. That wasn't very good, but that's what I'm doing. I'm eyeballing it. Now I want to select this other eye. So I'll draw a box. You can see that my selection box down here is highlighted. Let's move that eye. If it doesn't move, just select it again. And I could do this with my finger as well by selecting it. You can see that. And I can move it down. But when I do that, you can't see. So we'll use the mouse. So we'll move it into position. And if I don't have it just right, we'll be able to see in a moment because we're going to zoom in. So let's zoom in to 800%, take the hand, and then we'll pan. And we have to turn the hand off to move it. So let's turn that off. And that looks close enough. We'll go back to 100% to see what it looks like. It looks okay there. All right, for the nose, what I did is I selected the same egg shape again. So we'll go back in, we'll select the egg, choose OK, and now let's reduce the size of it. And we'll move that up and place it right here. Now, it may look to be too small or too large. We can always adjust the size of it. Right now, we'll leave it like it is. Now, we need to do a little bit of erasing. So let's do that next. We'll go into 800% and let's choose our eraser. And you can use the round or the square one. There are advantages to both, and I'll show that to you. We'll reduce the size of the square eraser to 10. And now let's take the hand and we'll pan. And now we'll take that eraser. We have to select it again, but it remembers the setting. And use the tip of that eraser to get down here and erase this one pixel right there. Okay, now take the hand and pan over. You have to select the eraser again, and we'll go back down and select that. Very good. Now what we'll do is we'll go down and erase on the tail. So using that same eraser point, we'll take it. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the leading edge of that corner and getting what I need erased. If you leave a pixel, don't worry about it because it's probably not going to really show up with the embroidery. What I don't want to do is to create a hole, and I'll explain why in a moment. So we'll choose OK. Now let's zoom back out to 100%. So now we have the tail, we have the body, and we have the head. Now the next thing we're going to do is create whiskers. What I did is I selected this pencil right here that's open. If you go into properties, you have 4 different drawing tools. I selected the open drawing tool, and we want to use the triple stitch, so we might as well select it here. And I want it to be dark gray, and we'll choose OK. Now what I'll do is I'll zoom in to about 400% and use the hand and just move over here into an area so I can draw the shape of the whiskers. We'll need to select it again. And all I did was I just more or less drew a V, and then I drew a little line in the center. And this doesn't have to be perfect. So now that we have that, what we want to do is to go ahead and go back to 100%. And it may be too large. We might need to resize it, but let's select it by choosing the selection box, and we'll select it. Now let's just move it over and see if it looks like it's too large. I don't want it to touch the nose. I want it to be to the side of it, and I do think it's a little bit too large, so we'll reduce it a bit. And we want to reduce that proportionally and just nudge it in, and that's okay. And now I need a duplicate of it, so we'll create a duplicate. We'll move this over here, and now what we need to do is rotate it 180 degrees. All right, and we'll take that while it's selected and we'll add it. And again, this is artwork, so don't worry about whether it's just perfect or not. You can always use these tools to nudge things up and down using the arrows. That helps you get in closer, and let's zoom in just to see what it looks like. So this is what we have, and I like that. I'm happy with it. It's maybe a little bit, we might want to move it over just a fraction. There we go. We'll choose OK. All right, let's go back to 100%. And now we're ready to start adding another shape and filling the background. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a square for the background fill. So we'll click off and let's add that square for the background fill. So we'll go to the square and we'll find the square shape and we'll add it. And let's go to size and we'll enlarge this. Now keep in mind, I was telling you that you can only use about a little over 9 inches on a 9.5 inch frame. That's the embroiderable area. So I'm going to create the square somewhere beneath 9 inches or around 9. Okay, we'll just go with this. And so now we have this square. And the first thing I want to do is to add a no-sew line around this. I don't want a dark border on this square. Usually when I create these kinds of things, I use them for patches on bags. I will take it and sew it onto a shirt, leaving a raw edge because it's really cute on a kid's garment. And I want to have some fraying, and I bought a new Sashiko machine, so I'll be trying that out, and I'm sure you'll see videos of that. So now what we'll do is we'll go select no sew and choose OK, and let's just apply that by taking the bucket and apply it to that line. Now, one of the things, whenever you touch a line and you can't tell whether you've made a change, touch it again. You hear that clicking noise? That's telling you you've already applied something to it. We'll go on and select the background fill. So we'll go in and go to the properties on the region, choose the background fill. And if you own a Dream machine, this fill will be on your machine if you have updates 1 and 2. The same's true for the Destiny. And we'll choose a little flower motif. Designs 1 through 15 are on the Destiny and also on the Dream machine if you have update 1 and 2. And we'll choose OK. And let's choose a color. I chose blue, and we'll choose OK. Now we want to take the bucket and fill this in. So the reason I've done this in this order is because I want this to fill in all the way around. I'm going to add grass, but that'll create a barrier for me, and I'll adjust that a little bit later. So we'll go ahead and we'll start adding the color to the rest of the design. So first of all, let's go select the properties again, and we'll color the eyes. We want the eyes to be kind of this gray color, and we want that to be a regular fill. We'll choose OK. Now let's choose the bucket and let's touch the eyes. All right, we want the nose to be pink, so just choose a color chip and let's choose this pink and choose OK, and we'll fill that. All right, now what we want to do is to take care of all of our outlines. So let's go to the properties. We'll select the bean stitch. I want the bunny's body to be pink. I mean, he's not a conventional bunny, so we'll select pink. And we'll go on and select his body by choosing, first of all, the bucket. Make sure you select it. And we'll select the line. And you can see that it's colored the bunny's body. All right, the next thing I want to do is I want to put an outline around the eyes and the whiskers and the nose. So we'll leave the bean stitch, we'll go back and change the color, and we'll choose this lighter gray here and choose OK. And we'll select that around the eyes, the nose, and the whiskers. All right, we're almost done with our little bunny. Now it's time to add the grass. So one of the things I always say, it's good to save to memory in steps, because if that way, if you make a mistake, you can always go back. So let's save it to memory right now, even though we're not finished. Now what we want to do is go to add the grass. This is an open shape, and I chose this right here and choose OK. Now I brought this in and I really didn't, you can see I just made a mistake. That's all right, choose undo. While it's selected, I'll just go ahead and move it down to a position that I like. And this is one of those things that there's no right or wrong. I'm looking at how much of the grass is exposed on each side of this grid. We can remove the grid now so you can see. So we'll turn that grid off by choosing this selection and choose OK. Now you can get a better idea of the sense of the design. While that's selected, I'll go ahead and choose the color green. And I want it to be a different type of stitch. So let's go to property. And I'd like it to be one of these motif stitches. And we'll select this little fringe stitch here. I love the motif stitches that were added to our machine, and we'll choose green. All right, now let's take the bucket and let's touch the grass. Now you can see that we have the bunny, we have the grass, and we have the background. Now, there's one thing I would like to mention. I did this in a specific order, because if I did the background last, I know that I would have had to fill in this spot and this other one. And if I had the grass touching this line when I added color, it would have added the color to the grass. So I would have had to erase something. So one of the things is, the more you work with my design center, the more you'll realize that you want to do things in a certain order. There's no mistakes. You can always learn by what you're doing. Just think about it and plan ahead when you're thinking about your designs. Okay, now's another time to save it to memory. You know, some people don't save it to memory, that's fine. I can always erase things, but it just depends on how much time I want to recreate it. All right, one of the things, I don't want this to be such a heavy fill in the background. And so the thing that I'm going to do is I'll increase the size of it, and I'll increase it to about 175%. That'll give me the illusion of some of the flowers, but I don't want so many flowers in the background fill. Okay, we'll choose OK. Now the next thing we'll look at is whether we want the outline on. This is the outline right here. Let me explain to you, when you turn this outline off, right now it's a little bitty line and it's a single stitch that's going around the design. If you turn this off right now, you'll have openings everywhere where this design is open. So you would have, let's zoom in so I can really show it to you. So we'll take the hand and pan. You can see right now there's a little single stitch right here. Let me turn it off and let you see what happens when we do that. And give it a moment for it to go ahead and regenerate the stitches. Do you see now this is all open on the edge? That's not what I want. I do want it on. I turned the satin stitch border off by using a no-sew line. Now, there may be instances where you do want it open. Like if you were going all the way to the edge and you plan on sewing over it and it's going to become part of the seam, there's no sense in adding another stitch. Although it does give you a good cutting line. So you always want to think about that. We're still at 200%. We'll pan down so you can see. And now what we want to do is apply some properties. I do know that one of the things that I want to do on these outlines is add the same size stitch. Let's go back into our settings and go to page 9, and let's change this to millimeters and choose OK. Now, what I want to do is to select the eyes first. I do know whatever I do to the eyes and the nose, I want it to be the same. So what I'll do is I'll link it. Now you see they're all selected. I do want to turn the underlay on, and we'll choose OK. And I'm okay with the percentage, which is 100%. This is the density. I could change the stitch angles if I want, but I don't really think that's necessary. And this is pull compensation. I'll leave it like it is, and we'll go ahead and select the next objects. So the next thing that we're selecting is the background, which we've already dealt with. And now we're selecting the outline around the rabbit. I want to change this to 2.5 millimeters. The run pitch is stitch length, and we'll choose OK. Now we'll go ahead on the grass. I do want to change it. The stitch length on the grass is 2.5 millimeters as well, but I need to make some changes to that grass. Let's select it. You can see if I select that, I could come back here and change the color. Let's say I want to change it to a light green. But that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is to go down here, and I can increase the height of it if I want. So let's do that. So we want to increase the height. And we'll make this about 16 millimeters, and we'll choose OK. And then the other thing I want to do is I can change the spacing. I'm all right with the spacing, but I do want to flip this because I want this to be growing up or upward. So we'll choose OK. And we'll give it a moment to finish. Now you notice now our bunny is also, that stitch is applied to it. That was a mistake, no problems. We'll go in and we'll select that and go back and select the bean stitch and choose OK. All right, let's give it a moment to digitize. All right, we now have the bunny outline we've taken care of, and we have our grass, and we have not dealt with the whiskers. So let's go to the whiskers and the outline around the eye, and we'll just select it. I'll leave that at 2.0 millimeters because these are small eyes, and that's a small stitch around it, and we'll be all right with that. So we'll leave it like that, and we'll save to memory on our machine. And let's just go ahead and choose set. And it's converting it to an embroidery design. And let's look at it in the hoop. Okay, so here's our little bunny. You can see each stitch that's formed here when we made this larger, you can actually see the stitches on the grass. And you can also see that it looks like the grass didn't get flipped. So we might want to go back and look at that. So that's the reason why I always save things. Let's choose close, and we'll delete it and choose OK. And let's go back to my design center. Let's go to the memory pocket, and let's recall that last rabbit. You can see I've done this several times, and we'll choose OK. All right, let's go to next. And what I want to look at is the grass. So we'll just move into the grass, and we may make a few refinements on it. So we'll use our arrow to move through until we get to the grass. Okay, here's the grass right here. And that's what I was thinking. You see right now, this is showing that it's under the line. I want it to be above the line because that's the way the grass grows. And we'll choose OK. All right. And I think I'm going to reduce the size of this stitch too. although it looks pretty good now. Now that it's flipped, I kind of like it. So we'll save that to memory. And we'll go ahead and choose set. Now let's look at it and zoom in. I like that a lot. Okay, so let's play this out to see how it's going to stitch. I think it's always interesting to see how it stitches because you can think about how you built the design. So let's play it out. And you can see that it's creating the background first. That wasn't the way we created it, but it makes sense for it to stitch out the background. Now you notice that when we added that line for the background, it's also adding that blue line for the bunny. And because it is closing that off. If you don't like it, then what you would do is remove it. But here's another idea. If you wanted that shape inside this background, you could add no sew lines around your bunny shape, and you could create a pattern like this. Another idea. Okay, we'll let it continue. We'll speed it up just a little. Now it has the outline stitch, and now the bean stitch, and here's our grass, and our bunny's done. What I plan to do is to color this with watercolors and or use crayons and set them, and that way I have something that's lightweight for a child. But you can do whatever you want. I hope this was helpful to you. If you like my videos, please like and subscribe to them. I answer questions on YouTube and also on my Facebook group, which is called Just Stitchin'. That's STICHIN, no G, with the Brother Luminaire. Thanks for your time today, as always, and have a great day.